Hello and welcome to Bags of Action. My name's Steve and this is a 5-minute review of Blade Runner 2049 from 2017. The film is directed by Denis Villeneuve, who's worked on films such as Sicario and Arrival, and basically he's the kind of director that anything he puts on screen I will now watch, regardless of the genre, because I think he's a master of his craft. With sequels in general, I can't think of any film that was meant to be a standalone movie rather than part of an ongoing franchise that has been improved by a sequel. Usually sequels spoil a film, they don't reflect well on the original, and if it's an ongoing franchise like Indiana Jones, then you can always have more adventures. But with something like The Matrix, I thought the sequels were awful. So when they announced they were going to be doing Blade Runner 2049, I was particularly worried because I'm a huge fan of the original film. I think it's incredible. Even though it wasn't a box office success at the time, it's the kind of film that people still talk about decades on. And that shows you the power that it has. And there was something unique and quite special at cinema. And to this day, I mean, there's so many theories people still have about the original. And so that was another concern, is that if they bring in a sequel, what's it going to do to all of those theories? However, this is the only time where I can think a sequel is as good or even better than the original, and that it adds to the world and doesn't detract from the original film. I think it's actually a bit of a cinematic masterpiece. So you're probably going to guess my score before I even get to it. If you didn't see Blade Runner 2049 at the cinema, then I think you're losing out, because no matter how good your TV is and your surround sound, there's something special about being in a room with hundreds of people in the dark, all focused on one thing. There's no distractions, there's no phone, there's no iPads. There's just the film and a huge screen in front of you, and it transports you to somewhere completely different. The cast on this film is amazing. Remarkably, Harrison Ford isn't the lead, which is fine. He does come in and do his usual grumpy stuff, and he really plays to his strengths. And there again, at his point in his career, if he didn't want to be in the film, there's no reason he would have. And I've seen interviews with the director saying that Harrison Ford was enthusiastic and he really wanted to come back. Dave Bautista at the start of the film shows that he's an extremely capable actor. He can do a lot more than the funny action that we've seen in things like Guardians of the Galaxy. In this, he's tortured and passionate, and he's absolutely fantastic. A standout performance for me has to be Ana de Armas as Joy. She's does so much with so little. She's beautiful, she's lonely, she's passionate, and given that in the film she can't touch anyone, she just gives this incredibly layered performance. Some of the other great roles, Robin Wright and Sylvia Hoeks as Love, she is brilliant. I could talk about her work in this film all day. The grief and the anger that she has is so powerful. Filling out the cast are familiar faces like Lenny James, Wood Harris, Jared Leto, and of course Mackenzie Davis, who we've seen most recently in Terminator Dark Fate. The standout acting performance for me has to go to Ryan Gosling. Now, I've seen him in a few films before this, in things like Drive. I thought he's very, very menacing. He's very dynamic in things like La La Land, which shows you his range. And one of the best things I'd seen him in, which proved to me that he was a major talent, was actually The Nice Guys. That shows he was incredibly funny, he had brilliant comedic timing, and he was just wonderful. And this, he's so, so good. He's tortured, he's naive, he's driven, and yet he's determined to be frozen behind this mask because he's not allowed to show emotion. He's supposed to be this machine that stays calm under all conditions and doesn't get excited. And as the film goes on and that facade begins to crack, you start to see more and more of what's beneath the surface. There are a couple of interesting cameos in the film that I won't spoil. Obviously, I mentioned Harrison Ford is back as Deckard. He obviously wanted to come back. He obviously had a lot of fun doing it. And he brings really good raw emotions to his scene, because now he is an older man playing this role who's been there, seen it all and done it. The use of colour in this film is incredible. They're so rich and vibrant, these bright blues and oranges. You've got the griminess of the original that we saw, but there's also this glorious neon throughout the film. The CGI is incredible and is obviously a huge step up from the original. And I'm sure in 20 years' time we'll look back at this and say, oh, it's a bit shaky. But for the present day and the current limit of technology, it looks fantastic, and it creates this futuristic landscape far beyond anything we've seen. Now, the original music in the film was by Vangelis, and the music in this film was scored by Hans Zimmer and Benjamin Wallfisch. And they bring familiar tones and elements that they weave in to create something new and absolutely sublime. It's haunting, it's powerful. Sometimes it really overpowers the dialogue in a scene, and it amplifies the tension, and it adds this incredible visual landscape to the film. And there again, it's something where you need to see it on a big screen or something with really powerful speakers. There's a lot to talk about in this film in terms of themes, far too many to get into, but it's the kind of film that you can rewatch many times and get something from it. It's talking about life and the nature of life. It's talking about humanity and what we'll do to protect it. The film is about belonging and finding your purpose and also a place in the world. It's about prejudice and family. And on top of that, it's also a murder mystery and a sci-fi treasure hunt and all this kind of stuff. There are some films that are obviously not for children because of the violence, language, sex, and so on. And if they watch it, or a younger viewer watched it, they'll only see the surface of the film. And this is the kind of film like that. You can watch it and you can enjoy it and say, yeah, it's a good action film and all the rest of it. But if that's all you're getting from this film, then I think you're barely scratching the surface and you need to go back and watch it again. At times, this film feels like a dream. You're not really sure what's real and what's imagined because of the CGI and what's going on in the action. But it's also talking about the nature of life and where is the line between artificial life and real life. How far do you have to go before it becomes something unique? And that goes back to the original source material of Do Androids Dream Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. And this film plays into that very much whilst adding to the original, as I've already mentioned. So as you can probably tell, I absolutely love this film. I've owned a copy and I've watched it many, many times. I think it's an amazing piece of cinema from a visionary director, and it's probably one of my favourite films ever. So, as you could guess, I'm going to give it 5 out of 5 and say you need to go and watch this film if you haven't already seen it. So, have you seen Blade Runner 2049? If so, get in touch and let us know. You can contact us in all of the usual ways via email, Facebook, and leave us a comment below. We have new episodes coming out every week, and don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel.